Good morning, Kevin here on day 2 of the Positively Unstoppable Challenge, DDPY even. So today I want to talk about stories because stories are something that can hold us back and something that can propel us forward, depending on how we look at them. And a lot of us run stories in our brain that really hold us back. I've been guilty of this pretty much my entire life because there's been stories, there's been narratives, there's been facts, and there's been lies, and there's been things that have been forced upon me that have made me feel a certain way about myself. And I've taken those stories, I've taken those lies, and I've adapted them to create my own stories, to create my own narratives that sometimes have allowed me to get off the hook for doing certain things. Some things that have excused some of my actions, sometimes that have allowed me to perform or behave in a certain way and get away with it because I just say, well, it's because of this, and well, it's because of that, and the government, and you know, the fast food and alcohol and my upbringing and all of these things. They're all things that get mixed into a big melting pot of shit. But there's also stories that can serve you in different ways. So, for example, yesterday I talked about athletic achievements in the past, running 100 miles, doing Ironman triathlons, things like that. And on reflection and on an awful lot of inner work that I'd done on myself, I realised that the stories I was running about those was that I was doing massive, big things because I wanted attention. Because when I was young, all I got was negative attention. And that's not a good thing. So I would, or no attention at all, which also is not a good thing. But I wasn't getting any positive attention. Now, when you're a child and you want love and you want nurturing or whatever, and you're constantly being told something, you're a little shit, you're a little tosser, you're lazy, you're useless, you're horrible, any number of different things. Eventually you start thinking, well, if that's who I am, I better start behaving like that because then that gets me attention. So you do the naughty things, you do the bad things, and bang, you get the beating. But that's attention. So then you think, oh, and you don't do this consciously. So what I realized was that when I took myself from nearly 16 stone and then I eventually ran 100 miles, it's like, woohoo, aren't I great? But no, it all started with a decision to start running. And when I started running and I made that decision, I didn't know that I would be running 100 miles later on. I had to create a series of stories that propel me along that journey. Now, the difficulty is that there's an awful lot of ingrained stories that are still in our brain. These are stored and lodged in our subconscious mind. And in order to eradicate those and in order to rip them out like weeds, one at a time, we have to work incredibly hard in implanting new stories into our brain. So I used to beat myself up about the fact that I used to do extreme endurance events because I was looking for attention. Because I got attention, because I was a big fat guy, and then I ran, and then I became slightly skinnier, and then I became fitter and fitter, and then I did even more extreme things, and then I got even more attention, and then I did it for charity, and it was attention, but it was positive attention, and that was something that was very unusual for me, because all I was used to was negative attention. And then what I realized was that I would sabotage myself, because I didn't feel that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was worthy of any attention of any kind, whether it's good or bad or indifferent or just being ignored. So I would beat myself up on a regular basis. And what this caused was a cognitive dissonance within my brain. I'd do something good, lose some weight, do some extreme thing, then I'd feel bad, so I'd drag myself back. And it was this constant karmic cul-de-sac from a peak right down to a pit, and then hating the pit and hating where I was, so I would rise out of it again and get up to a peak. Then I'd feel, no, I'm not worthy of this, I'm not good enough for this, so I would drag myself back down. And that is a horrific situation to live with in your life. Now, here I am, 2023, Positively Unstoppable Challenge. The challenge for me, it's not necessarily about losing a certain amount of weight. It's not necessarily about stopping the alcohol, which I'm doing. Both of these things I want to do. It's not necessarily about winning a belt or winning a competition or anything like that. For me, The challenge for me is changing who I am fundamentally, coming from here to here. And there's this journey, which is here. And there's a big gap between that. And all of the time, I'm going to have to kill a version of myself here. Then I go from here to here, kill another version of myself. Go from here to here, kill another version of myself. And just keep doing that each time, learning the lessons along the way, killing those stories, killing those narratives, so that I can create a new story, a new narrative. And I am writing my own character. Because we're all characters in this play called life. We're all our own stars in our own movie, or we're our own villains in our own movie. So essentially, here in life, we create our own hell or our own heaven, depending on what we want to do, depending on the habits and the thoughts and the beliefs and the stories that we tell ourselves. So in order to create a difference from heaven to hell, I need to write a new story. The only way I'm going to do that is with persistent and consistent action. Lots and lots of little wins that I can just go, well done, Kevin. You're doing a good job. Yeah, you did that well today. Okay, you messed up a little bit here, but that's okay. That is what is called a learning curve. And as you keep identifying the problems, as I keep saying, messed up there. Okay, I'm going to eradicate that tomorrow. Okay, messed up there. This is like a checkpoint. So instead of beating myself, all I've got to do is tick it off, checkpoint. Okay, what can I learn from this? What story am I telling myself so that I can learn from this and so that I can evolve from it? What story are other people telling me? Because let me tell you, some people will say, you're perfectly fine as you are. But you might not believe them. And other people will say, don't lose any more weight. You're looking a bit scrawny. And then other people will say, I really liked you when you were big. These are stories, these are narratives, because it's all about how we feel. And it's all about how we feel about ourselves. Now, I've had a lifetime of loathing myself. So even when I felt good and I've done good things, because of the self-loathing, I've dragged myself back. Now, that's a story and that's a narrative, and it's something that I have to deal with. So what's your story? What's your narrative? What are you saying to yourself? Oh, I eat this much food because it makes me feel full, because it makes me feel happy, because it triggers all the dopamine in my brain, because other people are doing it, because the media says it's okay, because, it's nothing to do with me. It's not my fault. What are these stories that you're telling yourself, and what are you getting out of them? Because let me tell you, we always get something out of the stories we tell ourselves. We may not necessarily know it right now. We may not necessarily be actively looking into that and examining it, because it's tough. It's really hard to examine your story. It's really hard to look at it from different perspectives. But here's the thing. If one of your great friends came to you and said, okay, I've got this situation, I'm feeling this, I don't like it, I want to change it, I want to be this, I want to change that, I want to have a happier life, I want to stop eating, I want to stop drinking, I want to stop, being addicted, whatever it is, you would have a whole load of advice for them. And that advice is based on your own personal experience. And you will say, well, I would do this. Well, I advise you to do that. Oh, well, Johnny down the road did this and Mary did that. And look where it got them. And look at all these DDP guys and look at their stories. And yeah, if you just did this. But you see, the thing is, we can look at our own lives and we can give ourselves our own advice. But that's really tough, because for many of us, we've got this story going on, this deserving story that we don't deserve to be fit. We don't deserve to be healthy. We're not good enough. We're not worthy. We're not enough. We're not like them. We're not like these guys who came from huge amounts of weight down to really, really fit. And we're not like Arthur. And all of these, well, we are, because we're just people and we can all do it. But our brains hold us back, and our stories and our narratives hold us back. Now, I am no great exponent of this, because I've had a million stories that I've had along the way. But in writing my own story now, in writing my own play, my own movie script, because it is all just an act, because we have the stories that were ingrained in us, and so we live those parts. It's only when you stop and you say, stuff that, not living that act anymore, I'm changing to act number 2. Act number 3, act number 486. Who cares what story you're now writing? Who cares what life you're now wanting to change? Who cares if you failed 68 times in the past, 6,888 times? Who cares? They're just checkpoints along the way. And you've learned lessons all of that time. You've learned how not to do it. You've learned how to do it. You've learned what you like. You've learned what you dislike. So I encourage you with this video, just think today, what is your story? What do you want to change? Who do you want to become? Who do you have to kill in order to become that person? This version of yourself. Who do you have to kill? Each time. You don't have to know all the steps along the way. You just have to say, here I am, here's where I'm going. Okay, what do I have to do first? That's it. Maybe your first step is taking your pictures, doing your SmackDown goals. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's actually getting your yoga mat out. Not even doing any exercise. Just getting the mat out, looking at it, thinking, okay, I'm doing DDP yoga. Just looking at my mat, not doing anything else. The next day, get your mat out again. Look at it. Okay, I want to get into this. I want to do DDP. The next day, get the mat out. After a few days, you're going to go, okay, let's put the actual thing on the telly. Let's watch some of it. So we've got the mat out, and now we're watching. Okay, maybe I could try some of that. Maybe I could just pull it. Maybe I can do Hulk it up, whatever it is. Maybe you can just do this. And then as you get momentum, as you get little wins, you can start ticking them off. And you can start saying to yourself, okay, yeah, I did that. Maybe you have a completely different thing. Maybe you're already fit. Maybe you're not overweight. Maybe, but your story is your story. Whatever you do, do not compare to someone else. Comparison is the thief of joy. Because you can do things and then you can see someone else who you think has done it better and you will lose any joy that you've created. Because you've got to run your own race. When I ran 100 miles, didn't matter what time I came in at. I still ran 100 miles. Whether you run an 8-hour marathon or a 4-hour marathon, you still ran a marathon. The time has nothing to do with it. But people compare all the time, and it's the thief of joy. So, what story can you rewrite for yourself today? That's it. Cheers.